Welcome back, dear viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review, and we are joined here in the studio with Ms. Marwa Ibrahim, Deputy Head of Foreign News Desk Al-Ahram Daily Newspaper. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we start off from Al-Akhbar newspaper, and we read the following headline: President El-Sisi receives credentials of 10 new ambassadors. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received on Monday the credentials of 10 new ambassadors to Egypt. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Ala Yusuf said that the ambassadors of Sri Lanka, Malta, Bosnia, Namibia, Slovakia, Lithuania, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Indonesia, and South Africa presented their credentials to the President in the presence of Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri. Yusuf said that the President welcomed the new ambassadors and wished them success in their mission. So how do you evaluate Egypt's efforts to enhance its foreign policy?
You see, although it's a protocol ceremony,
Yes.
but Egypt, it shows how Egypt is keen in keeping good relations with other developing
Yes.
countries, countries that are facing the same dilemmas and plights as we are. Cambodia, for instance, and Sri Lanka are facing terrorism and extremism,
Yes.
the same as we do. Some other countries facing economic hardships.
Yes.
We can exchange experiences which would help us to cross this hard phase which we are facing right now.
Yes.
It's an important thing to keep good in touch with other countries so that we would cooperate and help each other in facing the international dilemmas right now.
Okay. And still with Al-Akhbar newspaper, and we have the following headline: Merkel sends a telegram of condolences to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi over Egypt airplane. German Chancellor Angela Merkel sent a telegram of condolences to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi over the Egypt airplane that crashed into the Mediterranean on its way from Paris to Cairo. Merkel expressed her sincere condolences to the Egyptian government and people, as well as the family. On Monday, a funeral was held to the victims of the plane after the plane debris was found 295 kilometers from the coast of Alexandria. The funeral was attended by Prime Minister Sharif Ismail and Speaker of Parliament Dr. Ali Abdel Al, as well as many cabinet ministers. Also on Monday, Public Prosecutor Councillor Nabil Sadiq held a phone call with his French counterpart in the framework of coordination and judicial assistance requested by the public prosecutor from France regarding the information documents as well as audio and visual recordings during the period in which the plane stayed in the French airport until leaving the French airspace. Earlier, President Fattah el-Sisi said that Egypt has sent a robot submarine to join the hunt for the Egypt airplane. Ships and planes scoring the sea north of Alexandria have found body parts, personal belongings, and debris from the plane, but are still trying to locate the black box recorders that could shed light on the cause of the crash. So how do you see this accident, and how do you evaluate cooperation between Egypt, France, and Greece to try to find the reason behind the crash?
You see, as sad and tragic this incident is, but it confirms that Egypt is right now in the heart or the center of the war against terrorism.
Yes.
It reflects the importance of sharing intelligence, not just cooperation in looking for the debtors or helping the families of the victims. There should be some other more cooperation between countries in sharing intelligence, security intelligence, in order to facing them. They are aiming at destroying the cooperation, the new cooperation. It's aiming to destroying the mutual trust between the two countries.
Yes.
They are getting closer and closer, which maybe some other countries or factions don't like that.
Yes.
It's not helping them in many ways.
Yes. Okay, moving to Al-Yawm Al-Saba newspaper, and we read the following headline: Grand Imam of Al-Azhar meets with Pope Francis. Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Dr. Ahmed Al-Tayyib, started on Monday a visit to the Vatican where he met with the Pope Francis in a historic visit after years of suspended talks. The historic visit between the two religious leaders, which is considered unprecedented, focused on coordination of efforts between Al-Azhar and the Vatican of spreading a culture of dialogue, coexistence and peace between peoples and societies. A panel discussion followed the meeting with clerics and researchers from the two institutions meeting to discuss joint working committees between Al-Azhar and the Vatican. More about Grand Imam of Al-Azhar visit to the Vatican in the following report.
The Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayyib, met on Monday with Pope Francis I in the Vatican in a historic encounter. The Vatican meeting between the leader of the world's Catholics and the highest authority in Sunni Islam marks the culmination of a significant improvement in relations between the two faiths since Francis took office in 2013. The talks covered efforts by Al-Azhar and the Vatican to promote for the culture of dialogue and coexistence. The Grand Imam and the Pope agreed during the meeting to hold an international conference for peace. During the meeting, Tayyip stressed on the importance of rejecting all forms of violence and terrorism while activating interfaith dialogue between different peoples and communities. Tayyip and his delegation then had talks with the Vatican Cardinal in charge of interreligious dialogue, Jean-Louis Thoron. The meeting comes 5 years after the Cairo-based Al-Azhar froze talks with the Vatican to protest comments by the Pope Benedict XVI then. The meeting tackled ways of activating joint action between Al-Azhar and the Vatican. In a statement, a spokesman, the Reverend Federico Lombardi, said Francis and Tayyip discussed the need for authorities and the faithful of the world's great religions to show a common commitment to peace in the world. They also discussed the rejection of violence and extremism and the plight of Christians in the context of conflicts and tensions in the Middle East and their protection.
Welcome back. As we are talking about this historical visit, what is the significance of this visit to the Vatican by Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayyib?
I think it's a very, very important visit. It should have happened much earlier. It helps in explaining to the West what's the true Islam, the true principles of Islam through official and formal channels.
Yes.
You see, nowadays the West sees a mutated face of Islam. It's not the wrong people are presenting the Islam and the Islamic principles, which created an overall vision against the Muslims. What they are seeing from the Muslim world is war, blood, and violence. We should correct such concepts. We should give them what is the right Islam. What Islam is about: tolerance, about peace.
Yes.
It's against war. There are a brotherhood. There are a lot of things that we should explain through official channels. What they are seeing is biased faith, extremism, not moderate Islam. Al-Azhar is the only place that can create such an official channel where it was a visit or a job that should have been done much earlier.
Yes.
Through official, it would help also the West in other way. You see now there's the parties, the right parties, the extremism again, like Begida, which is against Islam, Begida Association, which is against Islam, is rising, and the right parties are rising in the West,
yes,
which is creating a kind of terror and fright in the political arena in the West. putting everything in its right place would help the West as much as it would help us in presenting ourselves out there.
Okay, and moving to Egypt news, and we read the following headline. Prime Minister heads the economic group meeting. Prime Minister Sharif Ismail headed on Monday the economic group ministerial meeting. In the meeting, the Prime Minister followed up the market's prices file. The meeting focused on the preparations for the holy month of Ramadan and the availability of basic commodities to citizens and the development of the consumer centers. The Prime Minister said that the government is willing to provide citizens with commodities in reasonable prices. During his meeting with head of Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics, General Abu Bakr al-Gindi, the Prime Minister reviewed several reports over the essential goods. So how do you evaluate the government's efforts to supply citizens with the needs ahead of the holy month of Ramadan?
Supplying the needs of the people is sending a message that we are in a stable country. Yes. Everything is going in its ordinary way, everything is going right, but also we are facing a we have a very hard economic dilemma. Yes. You see, nuts are getting nuts nowadays in Egypt. There are so many initiatives on the social media to boycott buying nuts from merchants who are
exported ones with high prices.
With high prices, yes. But we can't.
So we can focus on the local production.
We can focus on the local production instead.
Yes.
We can, but right now with such the economic hardships, it's hard to control prices. It's hard to control everything with the rise of the dollar and with the shortage of industry and cultivation. Yes. It's hard to control everything.
Yes. And moving to Al-Yawm Al-Saba newspaper, and we read the following headline. The Armed Forces Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Mahmoud Hegazi, starts on Tuesday an official visit to the United States upon an invitation by U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Joseph Dunford. Military spokesman Mohammed Samir said that the visit will focus on military cooperation between the two countries. The discussions between the Armed Forces Chief of Staff and the delegation accompanying him with their U.S. counterparts are expected to include recent regional security developments. The Chief of Staff's visit comes 2 weeks after the U.S. delivered an initial shipment of mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles to Egypt. It was described by the U.S. as crucial capability needed during these times of regional instability and part of the continuing strong relationship between the United States and Egypt. The batch delivered in May the first batch of a total 762 vehicles that the United States will deliver to Egypt. Earlier, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has reiterated that the United States strongly supports Egypt in its fight against terrorism. So, to what extent Egypt's cooperation with the United States in the military field will help Egypt in its war against terrorism?
It would help in so many ways. First of all, after a year of controversy in the United States about whether to deliver the military assistance to Egypt or not, they couldn't help recognizing the importance of Egypt in facing the chaos in the Middle East right now, the regional chaos.
Yes.
Secretary of State John Kerry visited Egypt for about twice in the past few weeks.
Yes.
Therefore, it means that they are recognizing what Egypt is doing and the importance
of role in the region. Yes.
Of its war against terrorism, either in Libya, in Sinai, in Syria. Yes. It's helping in so many ways.
Right.
Maybe some ways are public and others are not, but in all the overall picture, Egypt is at the center of the war.
Yes.
it's facing, it's the biggest army in the Middle East, the most equipped one, and trained, the most trained one.
Yes.
That would be able to help in regaining stability in the region.
Right. And still with اليوم السابع newspaper, and we read the following headline: Egypt wins the most famous tourist destination award in Shanghai. Egypt has won the award for most famous tourist destination at the 2016 World Travel Fair, which concluded in the Chinese city of Shanghai. Egypt's tourism advisor to China, Dr. Abulmaati Sha'rawi, received the award. In remarks on Monday, Sha'rawi said that he is very happy to claim the award for Egypt at this year's fair, where the biggest international exhibitors in the field of travel and tourism take part annually. Sha'rawi said that more than 450 exhibitors from around the world took part in the three-day fair. So, despite all the challenges that are facing the tourism industry here in Egypt, still Egypt is able to win the most famous tourist destination award in Shanghai. So, how do you see this?
Although everybody out there is saying the Egypt incident,
Yes.
and the explosions and the disturbance everywhere are destroying our tourism industry. But Egypt is still a wealthy country,
Yes.
in terms of its
History,
monuments
yes.
and its touristic places. This message, this award is coming in the right time.
Yes, and yes, I agree with you. And moving to Al-Wafd newspaper, and Egypt condemns Syria blasts. Egypt condemned on Monday the series of terrorist bombings in the Syrian cities of Tartus and Jabala. More than 148 people were killed Monday in the bombings claimed by the Daesh group in the northwestern Syria, the deadliest attacks in the regime's coastal heartland. More about the situation in Syria in the following report.
More than 148 people were killed on Monday in bombings claimed by the Daesh group in northwestern Syria, the deadliest attacks to date in the regime's coastal heartland. Near simultaneous explosions targeted bus stations, hospitals, and other civilian sites in the seaside cities of Jabla and Tartus, which until now had been relatively insulated from Syria's 5-year war. The attacks on strongholds of President Bashar al-Assad's regime came as Daesh faces mounting pressure in Syria and neighboring Iraq, where a major offensive to retake the militant-held city of Fallujah is underway. 100 people were killed in Jabla and another 48 in Tartus to the south, including children. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitor said they were, without a doubt, the deadliest attacks on the two cities since the start of the war. Daesh claimed the blasts in a statement, saying they were in retaliation for Syrian regime and Russian airstrikes against the militants, and vowed to carry out more devastating and other bitter attacks.
Welcome back, and by this report we come to the end of today's edition of the Press Review. I'd like to thank my guest for today, Marwa Ibrahim, Deputy Head of Foreign News Desk, Al-Ahram Daily Newspaper. Thank you, Marwa. And now, dear viewers, we'll go for a short break, and we'll be back with the breakfast show, so stay tuned.